Ethan Cole had never thought much about being noticed. In his life, attention was something to avoid, not seek. Working as a systems engineer on the orbital hub Nova Station, he spent most of his days inside dim corridors and maintenance rooms, surrounded by humming machinery and blinking panels. Humans were still newcomers in the Galactic Coalition, a sprawling network of alien civilizations that stretched across 100 systems. He liked it that way. The aliens barely paid attention to him, and that suited him perfectly. It began with small, almost unnoticeable signs, a shadow in the corner of a corridor, moving just out of the range of the security cameras, a figure standing silently in the observation deck, gazing out at the stars, only to vanish when he approached. At first, he thought he was imagining things. Nova Station was old, with strange reflections in the glass panels and lights that sometimes flickered unexpectedly. But soon the feeling became undeniable. Someone, or something, was watching him. The first time he saw her clearly, he froze. She was standing at the far end of the observation hall, framed by the infinite expanse of space. Her skin shimmered faintly in a way that seemed almost unnatural, reflecting the artificial light of the station like polished metal. Her hair moved gently, though no air stirred. And her eyes were bright and piercing, a shade of violet that made it impossible to look away. He swallowed hard and realized that it wasn't just curiosity in her gaze. It was calculation. Ethan quickly looked around, expecting a security officer or a fellow engineer to step out and laugh at him for staring. No one was there. The figure remained, motionless, her presence calm but imposing. He turned back, and she was gone. The next few days were worse. She appeared almost everywhere he went, yet never directly approached. When he repaired life support conduits in the lower decks, she would be near the entrance, her form blending into the shadows. When he tested software upgrades in the main control room, she seemed to watch from a glass panel on another floor, as if the station itself had a hidden observer. He began questioning his own mind. Perhaps he was tired, stressed, imagining things. But then odd incidents began occurring that could not be explained away. A critical systems malfunction nearly shut down the station's power grid, but somehow it corrected itself moments before failure. He had not touched anything. Maintenance logs confirmed no one had intervened. And yet, the repair had happened. Another time, when a dangerous cargo container threatened to rupture in the storage bay, alarms went off, and a nearby robot reacted in a way no protocol had instructed. Ethan was certain she had something to do with it. One evening, he found himself standing on the observation deck, gazing at a distant nebula. His mind was restless. Turning over the day's events, he felt her presence before he saw her, the same calm, intense energy that had haunted him for days. She appeared without a sound, standing beside him. His heart raced. She didn't speak, but he could feel her focus. "Who are you?" he asked aloud, though he knew it was absurd. Aliens in the Coalition didn't need permission to follow or observe humans, but something about her presence felt different. Whoa. She didn't move, didn't respond. She simply watched. Days passed, and the pattern continued. Whenever he was alone, she was near, silently observing, never interfering. It was unsettling, and yet something about her seemed deliberate, measured. The other aliens on the station had no idea she was even there. No one dared approach her, not even the station security officers, who usually prowled the corridors. Rumors spread quietly among the crew about a ghost figure who appeared only when humans were alone, but no one confirmed seeing her directly.
Ethan's curiosity grew stronger than his fear.
He began to track her appearances, marking them in a small datapad. Patterns emerged. She always appeared where danger could strike, or where human intuition might be tested. She seemed fascinated by his reactions to unusual situations, as if observing how a human would cope under pressure. One morning, a maintenance alarm went off in Sector 12, A routine test had triggered a dangerous chemical leak in the life support system. Ethan rushed to the area, adrenaline pumping. He was trained for emergencies, but nothing in his simulations had prepared him for the chaos of real danger.
He saw her standing in the shadows at the far end of the corridor.
Her calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the panic of the emergency. Ethan quickly analyzed the situation. Containment fields were failing, and a sudden release of the chemicals could incapacitate the crew in minutes. He coordinated the emergency robots and began rerouting energy to stabilize the field. Every step was tense, precise. He glanced toward her, expecting interference or judgment, but she remained still, like a statue. It was as if she was testing him, watching if he could handle pressure without guidance. By the time the alarm was silenced, he was sweating, exhausted, but unharmed. The chemical threat was neutralized, and no lives were lost. When he turned to speak to her, she had vanished again. That was the moment he began to understand. She wasn't here to harm him or humanity. She was observing, learning, measuring. Over the next week, Ethan's interactions with her became a silent game. He tried to trick her, taking unexpected routes, changing schedules, testing if she would follow. Every time, she did. Every time she remained silent, never approaching, never revealing a single expression, beyond calm attention. He realized she was smarter than anyone he had ever encountered, patient and meticulous. The station's AI logs began showing anomalies he couldn't explain. Systems that were meant to be rigid and predictable responded with unexpected flexibility. Emergency protocols were bypassed in creative ways, allowing humans to avoid harm without direct instructions.
Ethan suspected she had a hand in this, somehow influencing the station from behind the scenes.
One evening, he gathered enough courage to speak aloud again while walking the observation corridor. Why me? Why follow me? There was no answer, only the quiet hum of the station and the soft glint of distant stars. He felt her presence again, closer this time, though still silent. He started piecing together a theory. This princess, heir to an ancient alien empire, was testing him, and through him, all of humanity. She had not approached any other humans on the station. No one else had been tested like this. The patterns were too deliberate to be coincidence. Humans were known in the galaxy as adaptive and resourceful, but most aliens underestimated them. Perhaps she wanted to see if that reputation was true. That night, lying in his small quarters, Ethan could not sleep. His mind raced with possibilities. The Coalition often monitored humans as potential threats, but this was different. She was not enforcing control. She was not preparing to attack. She was watching, quietly evaluating, waiting to see what humans could do when left to their own devices. The following morning, as he went about routine checks, a new realization struck him. He was beginning to feel a strange confidence in her presence. It was as if knowing she was watching forced him to be better, quicker, sharper. He improvised during minor system errors, solved problems before they escalated, anticipated malfunctions before alarms triggered. Her observation was changing him, sharpening his instincts. When he reached the observation deck that afternoon, he noticed her again, standing at the far end as always. She met his gaze directly, and for the first time, he felt a spark of understanding. She was not a shadow. She was a guide, a silent mentor, testing humanity's limits, seeing if humans could rise to challenges no one else dared to face. Ethan did not know what would come next, but he was ready to find out. Whatever game she was playing, it was bigger than the station, bigger than himself. And yet, deep down, he felt a flicker of excitement. Humanity had been underestimated for too long, and now, finally, someone powerful was watching, not to control them, but to see what they could truly accomplish. The alien princess remained silent, a constant presence, yet somehow comforting in her vigilance. Ethan realized he was no longer afraid. Instead, he was determined. determined to rise to whatever challenge he had set before him, to prove that humans were not weak or predictable. And somewhere far away among the stars, the princess had begun to smile, though he would never see it. Ethan woke to the soft hum of the station, the endless lights of Nova Station casting pale glows across the observation deck. Ever since the chemical leak incident, he could feel her presence almost constantly. The alien princess who had haunted his every step in silence was no longer a mystery he simply feared. She was a puzzle, one he was beginning to crave understanding. He had spent sleepless nights replaying every moment, every subtle action she had taken, trying to decipher a pattern, a purpose. That morning, an alert flashed on his wrist console. Nova Station's central data hub had recorded unusual activity in the command protocols. Normally, such anomalies were quickly traced to system errors or minor software malfunctions. But this time, the logs indicated deliberate, precise adjustments to critical systems. Someone or something was manipulating the station, yet no one was logged in. Ethan's heart quickened. He already had a suspicion. He moved quickly through the narrow corridors toward the central hub, scanning every corner for signs of her. She wasn't in the observation decks, not in the lower maintenance bays either. But as he approached the hub, he felt the familiar sense of awareness brushing against his mind. She was near, always near, though hidden from his eyes. Sitting before the console, he carefully reviewed the logs. Systems that were designed to shut down under stress were stabilizing themselves. Emergency protocols that should have required multiple confirmations were executing flawlessly with minimal human input. At first, he thought it might be a software glitch, but the more he examined the code, the more impossible it seemed. The adjustments were clever, adaptive, anticipating errors before they even occurred. Then it hit him. The princess had done it. She wasn't just observing anymore. She was testing him. She wanted to see how a human would respond to unexpected situations. Every subtle adjustment in the station was a challenge, a hidden puzzle, designed to push him to think faster, to act smarter, to adapt beyond protocol. His first instinct was to feel violated, like his privacy had been invaded, but the sensation was mixed with admiration. She was showing him how humans could be stronger than they realized, stronger than the coalition assumed. If that was her test, he had passed every challenge so far, often without even realizing he was being tested. The next week became a sequence of silent challenges. A life support conduit would overheat unexpectedly, forcing him to reroute power. A transport drone would malfunction mid-flight, requiring him to improvise a rescue. In every case, the princess remained nearby but never intervened, merely observing. He noticed small patterns in her appearances. She always came when human creativity was required, when instinct mattered more than procedure. One day, Ethan decided he needed answers. He couldn't continue working in uncertainty. He traced the shadowy paths she often took, following them cautiously through the maintenance tunnels. It took hours, but he finally cornered her in a narrow corridor, her figure perfectly still as if frozen in time. He stepped forward, heart pounding, and spoke firmly. "Why me? Why not any of the others?" Her eyes glimmered faintly in response, and for the first time she spoke, but not in words humans could understand. A translation module in his wrist console converted her alien vocal vibrations into comprehensible language.
"You show potential," she said simply. "The others do not."
Potential for what? Her gaze remained fixed on him, unwavering. To survive, to adapt, to lead when the galaxy demands more than obedience. He swallowed hard. "Are you saying this is a test?" "Observation is the first step. Observation is the first step. Assessment is the second. Survival is the final measure. You, human, are being evaluated for what comes next." The galaxy had always seemed immense, vast and impersonal, but suddenly he felt small under her scrutiny. And yet, there was something else. An unspoken respect. Believed humans had the capability to rise above expectations, to act independently when others froze. That belief was both terrifying and exhilarating. The following days brought even more intense trials. During a routine simulation exercise in the station's training bay, multiple systems were sabotaged at once. Security cameras flickered, oxygen levels dipped, and power surges threatened critical machinery. Ethan had seconds to react. He rerouted energy manually, repaired conduit failures with tools that weren't even designed for the task, and coordinated emergency robots as they moved in unpredictable patterns. The princess observed silently, her eyes never leaving him. When the crisis finally ended, Ethan was panting, drenched in sweat, but the simulation logs confirmed something remarkable. He had succeeded where no standard protocol could have predicted a solution. She was smiling faintly, though he could not see it. The first unmistakable sign of approval. Ethan began to understand the larger picture. She wasn't testing humans out of malice or curiosity alone. Her species had long dominated the galaxy through strict hierarchy, obedience, and careful calculation. They believed creativity and adaptability were weaknesses that destabilized civilizations. Humanity, however, had survived and thrived through unpredictability, improvisation, and courage. She was proving a point to herself, to her empire, and perhaps to the galaxy. It wasn't just the station where her tests occurred. During a routine cargo transfer to an orbiting freighter, Ethan noticed subtle alterations in the automated loading systems. Crates of supplies were misaligned, machinery operating with irregular timing. Other engineers would have followed protocol and waited for the system to correct itself, or called for assistance. Ethan did not. He improvised a new arrangement of the containers, rerouted conveyor power manually, and guided the drones through a new pattern that saved precious time. Later, when reviewing the freighter logs, he found her subtle mark again. Small adjustments she had made allowed him to succeed, but only if he thought quickly and decisively. Each success built confidence, each challenge honed his instincts. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt like humans weren't the underdogs of the galaxy. They were something unique, something unpredictable, something dangerous in a way no one expected. The first direct conversation between them was even more revealing. She appeared in the observation deck just as he was finishing a report. "You understand now," she said, her voice calm and resonant. "This is not mere observation. You are being measured."
For what? Ethan asked, though he had a sense of the answer. For the role humanity may play in what comes next, she replied. The Council underestimates you. They believe obedience is strength.
I believe your survival depends on independence, initiative, and courage. Ethan felt a surge of pride mixed with fear.
"And if I fail?" Her eyes softened slightly, almost imperceptibly. "Then humanity will face consequences it cannot predict. But failure is not an option. You have already demonstrated your potential." From that moment, their dynamic shifted. She remained silent most of the time, but Ethan began to anticipate her presence and the challenges she brought. He started taking more initiative, solving problems before they became crises, using his mind rather than relying solely on protocol. The crew began to notice the difference. They saw a human thinking faster, adapting better, taking charge in ways they hadn't thought possible. One evening, during a routine inspection of the station's outer hull, a meteor shower unexpectedly struck the docking bay. Smaller fragments had already damaged a cargo pod, and if not repaired immediately, the consequences could be catastrophic. Ethan rushed to the site. Drones were malfunctioning, airlocks were offline, and emergency lights flickered unpredictably. He moved quickly, calculating risks, rerouting power, and guiding the crew through improvised procedures. The princess appeared silently at the edge of the site. She made no move to help, yet her presence seemed to imbue him with clarity. Every decision he made was sharper, faster, more confident. Within minutes, the docking bay was secure, the cargo saved, and the crew unharmed. She remained watching until the last drone completed its task, then vanished as if she had never been there. Ethan began to realize that her tests were not merely about his survival. They were about proving that humanity could thrive in chaos, that humans could act decisively when other species hesitated. The princess's faith in humans became evident in the subtle ways she allowed challenges to unfold. She created situations that demanded initiative, creativity, and courage, qualities that humans possessed in abundance. By the end of the week, Ethan's perception of the galaxy had changed. Humans were no longer just a fledgling species in the eyes of others. They were a force of unpredictability, a species capable of rising when all others faltered. And the alien princess, silent yet vigilant, had become the unexpected catalyst for that revelation. As he returned to his quarters late one night, exhausted but exhilarated, he paused in front of the observation window. Stars stretched infinitely across the void, and he felt a strange sense of connection. Somewhere out there she was watching, not to control, not to punish, but to witness. To see what humans could do when they refused to be confined by expectations. Ethan smiled faintly to himself. Humanity was underestimated in ways that were about to change everything. And for the first time, he did not fear the attention of the alien princess. He welcomed it. She had followed him silently, tested him without words, and in doing so, revealed a truth. Humans were not weak. Humans were not predictable. Humans were capable of greatness, even in the face of the galaxy's most sophisticated observers. And Ethan knew, deep down, that this was only the beginning. Ethan had grown accustomed to the silent presence of the alien princess, but nothing could prepare him for what came next. The station's communication console beeped urgently, signaling an incoming message from the Coalition Council. It was unusual. Direct transmissions were typically filtered through multiple layers of bureaucracy. The message carried a tone that suggested urgency, even danger. When Ethan read the contents, his heart sank. The council had detected unusual activity within the sector and issued a directive. Humans were to be strictly monitored and restricted. Orders were clear. Human engineers were to work under supervision, with no autonomy. Any deviation from protocol was forbidden. He immediately sensed the problem. The council didn't trust humans. They had underestimated them once, assuming obedience was their natural state. But they had not accounted for initiative, for creativity, for the way humans could think beyond rigid rules. Ethan had seen it firsthand on the station, and the alien princess had been observing it even longer. He turned toward the observation deck. The princess stood there, calm and unshaken, her violet eyes reflecting the distant stars. She did not speak, but the tension in her presence was unmistakable. Ethan realized something profound. She had been preparing him for this moment. The first hint of rebellion came during a routine system check. A maintenance drone malfunctioned, threatening to collide with the station's central reactor. Following the council's orders would have meant halting all operations until supervised assistance arrived. Ethan did not hesitate. He calculated a series of rapid maneuvers to guide the drone away from the reactor, rerouted energy from secondary conduits, and manually stabilized the system. The council had assumed humans would wait, but Ethan had acted. The princess watched silently, as if approving every move. In that instant it became clear, this was not just about survival. This was about proving that humans could act when others hesitated, that they could make decisions under pressure that no other species dared to attempt. Word of the incident spread quickly. Other species on the station began whispering about the humans' audacity. They had not simply followed orders, they had taken initiative and succeeded. The council, expecting caution and compliance, had misjudged the human capacity for ingenuity. Ethan knew the council's restrictions were coming. It was not just a warning. It was an attempt to limit human potential before it could become a threat. The alien princess, however, had other ideas. She had always been a silent observer, but now her role shifted. She began giving subtle guidance, not through words, but through calculated interventions. Systems would behave in ways that nudged humans toward solutions, giving them opportunities to demonstrate their resourcefulness. The first major test came when an entire supply module malfunctioned during a docking procedure. Oxygen levels fluctuated dangerously, power surges threatened critical systems, and the automated docking clamps failed to engage properly. Humans and aliens alike froze, uncertain of how to proceed without formal instructions. Ethan stepped forward. He analyzed the situation, improvising a sequence of actions that no protocol could have predicted. He rerouted power, manually engaged the docking clamps, and guided the crew to secure the module. The operation succeeded, and for the first time, a collective gasp of admiration rippled through the station. Humans had acted decisively where others hesitated. The princess watched from the observation deck, silent yet unmistakably approving. Ethan realized that her tests were not arbitrary. She was demonstrating to the galaxy that humans could rise when other civilizations faltered. But the Council's reaction was swift. They dispatched an inspection fleet to Nova Station, demanding strict compliance. Their message was clear: humanity must be controlled or risk consequences. Ethan and the crew prepared for the inspection, but the princess had another plan. She revealed, through subtle manipulation of station systems, that the Council's fleet was vulnerable to environmental hazards if mishandled. She had created a situation where human initiative could neutralize the threat without direct conflict. When the fleet arrived, Ethan implemented her guidance with precision. He used station defenses and environmental controls to create strategic barriers and automated sequences that forced the inspectors to retreat. No lives were lost, no violence was necessary, but humanity had proven itself capable of defending its autonomy against a superior force. The alien princess remained unseen, her interventions invisible to the untrained eye, but her influence was undeniable. The Council, humiliated, but unable to retaliate without risking open conflict, withdrew. Whispers spread throughout the galaxy. Humans were unpredictable, adaptable, and cunning. They did not follow orders blindly. They acted when others hesitated. And the princess, once a silent observer, became a symbol of humanity's potential. Ethan began to see the larger picture. The princess had not been testing him alone. She had been testing the entire human race. Every subtle manipulation, every hidden challenge had been a demonstration of what humans could achieve when given the freedom to act. Her empire had relied on obedience, on structure, on predictability. Humanity had none of those constraints, and it made them uniquely formidable. Final challenge came when a rogue asteroid passed too close to the station, threatening catastrophic damage. Automated systems failed to respond correctly, and the Council's fleet was nowhere to assist. Ethan led the human crew in a daring operation, rerouting power, adjusting navigation arrays, and using every resource at their disposal to redirect the asteroid's trajectory. Each decision required split-second judgment, and every action carried immense risk. Through it all, the princess observed silently, her presence a quiet encouragement. Humans adapted, improvised, and triumphed where others would have panicked. The asteroid passed safely, the station remained intact, and the crew celebrated their success. Ethan felt a profound sense of accomplishment, but he also knew this was more than a victory for him. It was a demonstration to the galaxy. Humanity had proven its worth. As the dust settled, the princess finally approached. She spoke for the first time in a way that Ethan could fully comprehend. "You have exceeded all expectations," she said, her voice calm yet commanding. "Your species is capable of greatness that the Council cannot comprehend. You have not merely survived, you have adapted, innovated, and thrived where others would fail. For so long, humans had been underestimated, dismissed as weak or unremarkable. Now, in the eyes of one of the galaxy's most powerful figures, humanity had been recognized for its true potential." "What happens now?" he asked, still catching his breath from the asteroid operation. She regarded him thoughtfully. "The Council will continue to underestimate you, but their limitations are not yours. You have shown that humans can act independently, decisively, and wisely. That is your greatest strength. The galaxy will take note, whether it wishes to or not." Ethan understood the weight of her words. Humanity was no longer merely a fledgling species in the coalition. It was a force capable of shaping outcomes, of influencing events, of standing firm in the face of challenges that others could not overcome. The princess had followed him silently, tested him relentlessly, and now humanity had passed the ultimate evaluation. Over the next few days, Ethan noticed changes in the behavior of the station's crew. Humans moved with more confidence, took initiative, and solved problems without waiting for directives. Other species watched with a mixture of awe and caution. They had seen the results firsthand. Humans could not be predicted, controlled, or easily subdued. The princess remained a constant presence, though she never interfered directly. Her influence was subtle but undeniable, guiding humans toward opportunities to demonstrate their ingenuity. Ethan realized that her loyalty was not to the Council or the Empire, but to potential itself. She believed in humans in a way no other species had, and that belief was transforming the station, and perhaps the galaxy. One evening, as Ethan walked through the observation deck, he paused to look at the stars. The princess appeared silently beside him, as she always did, but this time there was a sense of calm in her presence. No tests, no challenges, just observation.
"You understand now," she said softly, her violet eyes reflecting the infinite expanse of space. "Humanity is not weak."
You do not need permission to act. You do not need approval to survive. Your strength lies in your freedom to choose, to innovate, and to rise above expectation. Ethan nodded. He had learned that lesson well. He had faced challenges that no protocol could prepare him for, confronted crises that demanded courage and ingenuity, and emerged stronger than he ever imagined. Humanity had been tested, and humanity had triumphed. The princess stepped back, her gaze lingering for a moment before she vanished into the shadows of the observation deck. Ethan felt a strange sense of anticipation. This was not the end. It was only the beginning. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long, and now they had proof that humanity could rise when others froze, that humans could act decisively in the face of impossible odds. Ethan understood his role clearly. He would continue to act, to innovate, and to lead when the galaxy demanded it. And somewhere, in the silent vigilance of the alien princess, humanity had found an unexpected ally, one who believed in their potential, even when the universe doubted it. He took a deep breath, looking out at the stars. The challenges ahead were immense, but for the first time, he did not fear them. Humans had been tested, observed, and judged, and they had passed. The galaxy would never underestimate them again. And for the alien princess, who had followed silently for so long, it was the moment she had waited for. Humanity had proven its worth, not through obedience, not through strength alone, but through creativity, courage, and the relentless refusal to be confined. Ethan had faced challenges before, but nothing could have prepared him for the events that were about to unfold. The Coalition Council, still smarting from their failed inspection and the humans' unexpected triumphs, had grown restless. Reports of humanity's independent actions had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Some species were impressed, others fearful. The Council believed humans needed to be controlled before their unpredictability became a true threat. Nova Station buzzed with activity. Aliens from multiple species arrived to enforce the Council's directives. Security teams patrolled every corridor. Systems were audited repeatedly, with humans restricted to minor tasks and under constant supervision. Ethan could feel the tension in the air. He knew the Council intended to intimidate humans, to remind them of their place in the galaxy. But he also knew the truth. Humanity had already demonstrated what it was capable of. He moved through the corridors with purpose, rallying his crew quietly. No orders came from the Council that they would blindly follow. Humans had learned to act on their instincts, to improvise, and to take initiative when others hesitated. Ethan was determined to prove that the Council had underestimated them once again. The crisis began suddenly. A massive asteroid field, previously considered stable, shifted unpredictably due to gravitational anomalies. Automated monitoring systems detected imminent collisions with several nearby stations and freighters. The Council fleet had been recalled to strategic positions, but they were too far away to intervene effectively. Panic rippled through the station as alarms blared, warning of catastrophic damage. Ethan assessed the situation swiftly. His mind moved faster than the automated systems. Standard procedures would fail. Waiting for the Council's orders would be fatal. He gathered his team of engineers, human and otherwise, and outlined a plan. They would reroute energy to reinforce shield generators, manually control docking clamps to protect freighters, and coordinate automated drones to push debris away. Every decision required split-second timing, and every move carried immense risk. The princess appeared silently at the observation deck, her presence calm and unwavering. Ethan felt her influence not as interference, but as guidance, subtle enough that it encouraged him to think creatively. The humans responded with remarkable speed and coordination, improvising as challenges emerged. One freighter's shields began to fail, but a team rerouted auxiliary power through an old engineering conduit, stabilizing the system. Another ship was caught in a debris corridor, but drones, repurposed on the spot, nudged it to safety. Hours passed in tense, unrelenting action. Humans acted decisively where others would have hesitated. Aliens in the station watched with a mixture of awe and disbelief. The Council fleet attempted to intervene remotely, but they could not predict or control human improvisation. Every move the humans made was precise, flexible, and unexpected. Ethan found himself in the control room, coordinating multiple systems simultaneously. Sweat dripped down his face as alarms screamed around him. He glanced at the observation deck. The princess's eyes followed every movement, silent but attentive. He realized then that this was the culmination of everything she had been preparing him for. The Council's attempts to control humans were doomed because they had never understood what made humans strong: adaptability, courage, and the ability to act without waiting for permission. One critical moment came when a massive asteroid, larger than any previously encountered, threatened to collide directly with the station. Automated systems predicted failure, and every protocol recommended evacuation. Ethan ignored them. He analyzed the asteroid's trajectory and improvised a manual solution, rerouting the station's gravitic stabilizers and using repurposed mining lasers to nudge the asteroid off course. Every second mattered. One wrong calculation could destroy the station and kill everyone aboard. The humans executed the plan flawlessly. The asteroid shifted its path, narrowly missing the station. Crew members cheered, exhausted but alive. Aliens on the station whispered among themselves. Humans had not just survived, they had saved everyone without waiting for orders, without fear, without hesitation. The Council's authority had been undermined, their assumptions shattered. As the dust settled, the princess descended from the observation deck, her presence commanding attention. She walked past the assembled crew, pausing in front of Ethan. "You have done more than survive," she said, her violet eyes glimmering with pride. "You have shown the galaxy what humans are capable of. You have acted decisively, creatively, and wisely where others failed."
"We did what had to be done," he said. "No one else would have."
That is precisely why humans are unique. Strength is not measured by obedience or by rigid adherence to rules. Strength is measured by the courage to act when others hesitate, by the willingness to think beyond limits, and by the ability to survive through ingenuity. The Council's representatives attempted to respond, but their protests fell flat. The evidence was undeniable. Humans had acted when the galaxy's most sophisticated systems had failed. Their independence, creativity, and courage could not be ignored. For the first time, humans were recognized not as a subordinate species, but as a force to be respected.
Ethan walked through the station, observing the reactions of the crew.
Humans moved with confidence now, taking initiative, solving problems, and making decisions without hesitation. Aliens began to treat them differently, not with condescension, but with a mixture of respect and wariness. Humanity's reputation had shifted. They were no longer the underdogs. They were a species capable of standing on equal footing in the coalition. The princess approached Ethan once more, standing beside him as he looked out at the stars. "The galaxy will notice," she said softly. "Your actions have set an example that cannot be ignored. Humanity has proven it can rise to challenges that others cannot even comprehend."
You are no longer to be underestimated. Ethan felt a surge of pride.
All the silent observations, the hidden tests, the subtle guidance, it had led to this moment. Humans had demonstrated their worth, and the alien princess, once a silent follower, had become an ally, validating humanity's potential in a way no one else could. As days passed, the Coalition Council began to recognize humans' true capabilities. Restrictions were lifted, and humans were entrusted with more responsibility. They led missions, solved crises, and implemented solutions that had baffled other species. Nova Station became a model for what human initiative could achieve. The princess remained a silent companion to Ethan, walking beside him without intrusion, her presence a quiet reminder of the lessons learned.
Humanity had been tested, challenged, and observed, but they had triumphed.
The galaxy would remember them, not for their strength alone, but for their courage, ingenuity, and the refusal to remain constrained. In the quiet moments when the station hummed peacefully and the stars stretched endlessly outside, Ethan reflected on everything that had happened. Humans had proven themselves in ways that even the most powerful civilizations could not have predicted. They had survived crises, defied expectations, and acted decisively when others froze. And through it all, the alien princess had watched, ensuring that their potential was fully realized. The final moment came when Ethan and the princess stood on the observation deck together, looking out at the galaxy. He no longer felt the weight of being observed. Instead, he felt a sense of partnership, of mutual understanding. Humanity had been recognized not as a threat or a subordinate species, but as a capable, innovative, and courageous force in the galaxy. The princess spoke one last time, her voice soft but firm.
Humans are free now, free to act, to create, to lead.
The galaxy will take note, and the future belongs to those who are brave enough to shape it. Ethan smiled, feeling the weight of her words. Humanity had risen. They had proven their worth, not through dominance or power alone, but through creativity, courage, and the unwavering refusal to be underestimated. The silent observer who had followed him through every challenge now walked beside him, not as a shadow, but as an ally and witness to humanity's triumph. As they looked out at the stars, Ethan knew one thing for certain: the galaxy would never underestimate humans again. And for the alien princess, who had once followed silently, the mission was complete. Humanity had proven its worth, and the galaxy would never be the same. Nova Station, once just a small outpost, now stood as a symbol of human ingenuity and courage. Humanity had passed the ultimate test, guided by the watchful eyes of the alien princess. And their story had only just begun. The universe had underestimated them for too long, and now humanity's time had come. The stars outside the observation deck stretched infinitely, and for the first time, Ethan felt the true weight of the galaxy's possibilities. Humans had survived, adapted, and triumphed. And with the alien princess walking beside him, the future looked brighter, bolder, and entirely in their hands.